Boston, summer of 2010. The morning sun falls over an orderly neighborhood where lawns are freshly watered and flags wave from porches. At number 27 Maple Drive, a family's having breakfast. Toast, orange juice, children's laughter. The mother, a woman in her early 40s, elegant in her simplicity, checks the schedule while gazing out the window. From the outside, it looks like a perfect American scene. Safety, routine, innocence. The noise of an engine breaks that calm. A black sedan stops in front of the house. Two men get out of the vehicle. They wear unmarked jackets and dark glasses. The woman goes still, watching. Then, without fully turning, she calls her husband. Her voice sounds controlled, almost a whisper. They've arrived. He looks up, understands instantly. There are no questions, only the sound of the children's footsteps going up the stairs, oblivious to what's happening. In the kitchen, the air grows heavier. Outside, the two men walk up to the door. One of them raises his hand and knocks 3 times. FBI, open the door. For a moment, nobody moves. The tick-tock of the clock above the refrigerator fills the silence. The woman takes a deep breath, like someone preparing to sink underwater. The husband approaches slowly and opens up. The light from outside floods the hallway. 2 federal agents look at them, their hands visible, their voices neutral. Richard Murphy, Tracy Foley. In the name of the United States, you are under arrest for federal espionage. Inside the house, time stops. Coffee and the children's notebooks remain on the table. On the wall, family portraits, a couple in a park, 2 children in Halloween costumes, a school graduation, everything that seemed real. The agents read them their rights. The woman does not cry, does not protest. She only nods. The man tries to keep his composure. His accent is impeccably American. The neighbors, alerted by the noise, begin to come out onto their porches. They watch as the family next door, the one that hosted Sunday barbecues, is handcuffed in front of their home. No one understands anything. Hours later, headlines will fill the newscasts. Russian spy ring dismantled in the United States. But in that instant, while the children are led away by an agent and the parents get into the black car, the neighborhood does not see criminals or traitors. It sees only an American family disappearing without explanation. They were neighbors, parents, taxpayers, and also illegal KGB agents infiltrated for more than 20 years. Moscow, winter of 1980. The city breathes smoke and snow. Beneath the frost-covered avenues, in the basements of the Lubyanka building, the heart of the KGB beats to the cold rhythm of typewriters. In a windowless office, Colonel Alexander Potayev spreads a folder on a table stamped with a red seal. Sovershенно sekretno, highly confidential. In front of him, a small group of officers listens in silence. The air smells of tobacco and metal. Potayev speaks without raising his voice. For decades, we have watched the Americans from the outside, he says. It is time to do it from within. This was not just any project. It was the birth of Directorate S, the KGB division in charge of illegals, agents infiltrated without diplomatic cover, with no visible connection to the Soviet Union. Spies without an official homeland, invisible even to their own. The plan was bold. Build complete identities, entire lives, and plant them in the heart of the West, not as spies in embassies, but as ordinary citizens. Potayev details the selection criteria. They are looking for young couples, intelligent, polyglot, capable of adapting without accent or suspicion, people who could live 20 or 30 years pretending to be what they were not, men and women who would learn to love, work, and raise children under a foreign flag. In the folders are files, psychological tests, fabricated genealogies, photographs without context. In one of them are the names Andrei Bezrukov and Elena Vavilova, newly graduated, trained in history and economics, fluent in English and French, young idealists who believe they are serving a cause greater than themselves. Days later, the 2 are summoned. A windowless room, a portrait of Brezhnev on the wall, and Potayev sitting in front of them. The motherland needs eyes that do not blink, the colonel says. You will not live as Soviets. You will never speak Russian in public again. You will have no contacts, no mail, no past. Elena asks calmly, "And if we have children?" Potayev looks at her without expression. Then your children will serve too. They will be American from the cradle. The silence that follows weighs more than any oath. There will be no medals or funerals, no names engraved on monuments. Their success will depend on absolute anonymity. Within a few weeks, training begins at a secret facility on the outskirts of Moscow. The recruits practice English with a Canadian accent, learn to walk differently, to gesture with Western naturalness, to improvise biographies. They are taught how to behave in a supermarket, how to argue about politics without betraying ideology, how to smile in family photographs. The goal was not to deceive an enemy, but to become the enemy. Every gesture, every word, every habit had to be authentic. They will be more American than the Americans, Potayev repeats to the group, tapping out the plan's tempo with his index finger on the table. Directorate S reports record the operation's fundamental principle. Perfect camouflage is not the shadow, it is the light, not to hide, but to shine with normality. In 1981, Andrei and Elena signed their final Soviet paperwork. Their names are erased from the records. From that day on, they exist only as Richard and Tracy Murphy, citizens without a past. Their mission has no return date, only a purpose: infiltrate, observe, and wait. From a fogged-up window, Moscow spreads like a tide of blurred lights. The train that will take them to the border leaves at dawn. Neither of them knows it, but the life they are abandoning is more real than the one they are about to live. On the outskirts of Moscow, a few kilometers off the road to Zvenigorod, rises a complex surrounded by forests and barbed wire. It appears on no map and bears no visible name at the entrance. To the few who know of its existence, it is simply called the school. There, the new candidates of Directorate S learn to disappear in plain sight. In the classrooms, the instructors do not teach ideology, but customs. The future illegals study Western magazines, practice accents, learn to chat about the weather, sports, local politics. On an ordinary afternoon, a dozen young people repeat in front of a mirror polite phrases in English and French. "How are you?" "Nice to meet you." An instructor corrects them. "Don't smile so much." Russians imitate the smile, but not the emotion. If you want to look American, you must smile because you are truly thinking of nothing. Culture classes alternate with improvisation exercises. Each agent must sustain a coherent biography, not only in words, but in gestures. It is not enough to know a name or a place of birth. One must remember the feel of the air in that invented place, the smell of the local bread, the colors of the fictitious school. They must learn to tell anecdotes that never happened, but could have happened. A training manual sums it up precisely. The secret is not to lie. It is to have nothing to confess. In another room, the recruits watch recordings of Canadian television commercials, detergents, cars, political campaigns. They analyze the rhythm of speech, the inflections, the gestures. The instructor stops the tape and points to the screen. Notice how naturally they move their hands. That is how someone speaks who does not fear being heard. Learn that. Elena Vavilova takes notes with a concentration bordering on obsession. Beside her, Andrei Bezrikov reviews a Toronto newspaper, underlining names, dates, streets, as if he could absorb an invisible map. They know that every detail can be crucial: the name of a restaurant, the address of a school, the texture of a banknote. At night, the training becomes psychological. A military psychologist poses hypothetical scenarios: detentions, interrogations, accidents, emergencies. If someone confronts you, he says, do not deny, deflect, change the subject. The most effective lie is the one that dissolves before being examined. Couple life is also part of the training. They must learn to argue without revealing tension, to trust without asking too many questions. A feigned relationship does not survive 20 years. It must become a real life. In internal reports, the instructors note, their bond is solid. They speak little, but understand each other. They are suitable for a long-term mission. As the months go by, the exercises intensify. They practice writing names in different alphabets, signing false documents, using codes and radio frequencies. They learn to pay taxes, to apply for bank loans, to send postcards in English with deliberate mistakes, because perfection also arouses suspicion. One afternoon, Colonel Patayev visits the training center. He gathers them in the snow-covered yard and watches in silence before speaking. When you cross the border, do not think about what you leave behind. From that moment, you will not be Russian or Soviet. You will be Canadian, American, parents, employees, taxpayers. And when someone looks you in the eyes, they must not see an enemy. They must see someone like themselves. The cold bites, but no one moves. Patayev turns away and adds without looking back, "Remember, perfect camouflage is not hiding. It is living so well that no one wants to look more closely." That night, Andrei and Elena return to their room. He flips through an English grammar manual. She stands looking out the window. "What if one day we forget who we are?" she asks. Andrei takes a while to answer. "Then we will know the training worked. In that world of shadows, invisibility is not an art. It is a way of existence." Montreal, 1988. Winter takes its leave with rain, and puddles reflect the red lights of traffic signals. In an office of the Canadian consulate, two freshly stamped passports change hands. They do not bear the names Andrei Bezrikov or Elena Vavilova, but Richard Murphy and Tracy Foley, Canadian citizens, a married couple, financial consultants based in Ontario. The biography is woven with surgical precision: universities, jobs, verifiable addresses, even childhood photos inserted into school records. They cross the border by road in a rented gray car. The U.S. officer reviews the documents with professional boredom, asks the reason for the trip, and receives a rehearsed smile. "Business," Richard replies with a flawless northern accent. "We're looking for opportunities down south." The officer nods, returns the passports, and wishes them good luck. A flick of the wrist and a plan years in the making slips into U.S. territory with no noise, no suspicion. During the first weeks, they settle in New York, in a small apartment in Queens. The city is a luminous chaos that overwhelms and fascinates them in equal parts. They walk among neon ads and conversations that mix English, Russian, and 100 dialects. No one looks at them twice. In that anonymous crowd, they are finally invisible. From the beginning, they understand that surviving does not mean hiding, but integrating. They open bank accounts, rent a post office box, buy used furniture. Andrei, now Richard, attends business seminars and hands out business cards printed at a local shop. Elena, Tracy, looks for work in real estate, a profession that allows her to move, observe, listen. The first legal money they earn on American soil is a small consulting contract. They celebrate with a simple dinner at an Italian restaurant in the neighborhood. No one watches them, no one follows them, no one imagines who they are. Over time, they move to Boston, seeking stability and anonymity. They buy a modest house in a quiet neighborhood with trees along the sidewalk and children riding bicycles. The neighbors greet them from the porch, invite them to barbecues, consider them discreet and polite. No one could guess that the couple who pays their mortgage on time works in secret for a foreign intelligence service. The KGB network in the United States is reactivated through the SVR, the new name of the old Soviet apparatus. Instructions arrive in encrypted messages, brief and cold. Gather information on business ties, assess public opinion, monitor the development of energy technologies. The couple replies with clockwork precision, impeccable reports, punctual deliveries, minimal communication. Over the years, the mission becomes indistinguishable from life. Their children are born in U.S. hospitals with authentic birth certificates and automatic citizenship. The names are carefully chosen, neutral, impossible to trace. In the family photos, there is no trace of imposture, smiles, vacations, birthdays, the perfect image of the American dream. Sometimes, while playing with the children in the yard, Elena looks at the neighboring houses and wonders whether their own neighbors are real. Whether on that orderly street there is someone else living a lie as complete as theirs. Andrei looks at her and understands without words. What began as a mission has become a parallel existence, a truth sustained by routine and habit. Two Soviet agents turned American parents, two lives that no longer fully belong to any country. During the 1990s, the Murphys become the perfect portrait of the American middle class. Their suburban Boston home is identical to the others: a flowered porch, a flag on the lawn, and a bicycle leaning by the garage. Mornings begin with coffee and local newspapers, afternoons with homework and family dinners. Elena, now Tracy, attends PTA meetings, joins raffles, and brings cookies to neighborhood gatherings. Andre, Richard, works as an independent financial consultant, always busy, always proper. In the eyes of the neighborhood, they are a somewhat reserved but friendly family. Quiet people, one neighbor would say years later, the kind who greet with a smile and never get into trouble. They host summer barbecues, send Christmas cards, celebrate Independence Day with fireworks. Every gesture, every routine forms part of the camouflage. Normality is their best disguise. But when night falls and the children sleep, domestic life transforms. In the basement, behind a false wall, a small shortwave radio is hidden. Andre sits before it with headphones on and listens to an almost inaudible murmur. Numerical sequences, measured, impersonal. They are encrypted messages transmitted from Moscow, each number a coordinate, a code, an instruction. Elena reviews the reports her husband notes in code on ordinary paper. Then she enciphers them, transcribes them onto microfilm, and stores them in metal capsules that, the next day, she will drop in a dead drop, a gap in a wall, an abandoned safe deposit box, a blind spot in a park. Neither speaks while they work. Words in that context are a risk. Their reports deal with seemingly harmless topics: energy debates, movements of diplomatic personnel, analyses of companies with government contracts. They do not seek military secrets, but patterns. Public information connected with data not so public. The KGB, now SVR, does not want heroes, but observers. And the Murphys observe everything. Contradiction becomes routine. By day, exemplary Americans. By night, silent cogs in an invisible network. On the surface, their lives are so predictable, they seem designed to be ignored. And precisely that makes them perfect. The years pass, the children grow. They speak English without an accent, play baseball, sing the national anthem at school ceremonies. They have never seen their parents speak Russian. In the family photos, their world seems as normal as that of any other family on the block. If there are secrets, they are buried beneath the appearance of everyday happiness. Sometimes, in the quiet of the bedroom, Elena stares at the ceiling and wonders what will remain of them if the mission ends. If the day they return to Moscow, if they ever return, they will be able to recognize themselves. Andre, half asleep, murmurs without opening his eyes, "Don't think about that. We mustn't." The double life has become the only life they know. The lie is no longer a parallel story. It is reality itself. The winter of 1991 arrived in Boston covered in news. On the living room television screens, the images were confusing. Crowds in the streets of Moscow, tanks parked in front of Parliament, red flags falling from official buildings. The Soviet Union had ceased to exist. The Murphys, Andre and Elena with other names, other lives, watched in silence. Neither of them spoke. On the sofa, the children played without paying attention, unaware that the country that secretly defined their parents' existence had just disappeared. For weeks they waited for instructions, but the encrypted radios remained mute. The numerical signals stopped, the contacts in Europe vanished. The illegals network hung suspended, invisible, floating without a homeland or purpose. Directorate S agents around the world became ghosts with false passports. There were no orders, no return, only a silent uncertainty. Andre switched off the TV and stared at the reflection of the empty screen. "So, who do we serve now?" Elena asked without taking her eyes off the wall. "Clock. Whatever is left," he replied without conviction. As months passed, the communiques returned, this time with a new heading: SVR, Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation. The tone was the same. The instructions scarcely changed. Observations were requested on energy policy, alliances, networks of influence. Only the sender had changed. The emblem, the flag, and the name, but not the mission. The Murphys kept complying. What had once been a matter of ideology became habit, almost inertia. Transmissions resumed irregularly, contacts reappeared under new identities. No one mentioned the collapse or the chaos in Moscow. In that world, feelings were irrelevant. Throughout the 90s, while Russia transformed into an unrecognizable country, they maintained the routine with discipline. They paid taxes, attended school events, integrated into American life with a naturalness that bordered on perfection. The neighborhood celebrated its barbecues. They, instead, celebrated stability. The network shrank, but survived. At night, when the city slept, Andrei turned on the radio and listened to messages in Morse code. Some were mere contact reminders, others precise requests. He replied with data obtained in casual conversations, a personnel move at an energy company, an economic report heard at a conference. Neither of them asked any more about the real value of that information. The important thing was to keep the line alive. Their faith in the mission had turned into habit. They did not know whether the country they served still considered them necessary, but routine was a way of existence, and obedience, an identity. Elena summed it up one night while folding the children's clothes. If the homeland changes its name, the mission does not. Andrei nodded. Outside, the wind stirred the bare branches of the neighborhood trees, and snow began to cover the mailbox with their American surname. In that well-lit house, where no one spoke of politics or borders, the Cold War remained alive, disguised as domestic life. And they, as always, waited. The Murphy house smelled of toast, new pencils, and children's paint. On the hallway walls hung school drawings, honor certificates, and framed photographs, the first day of classes, a baseball game, a Christmas with red and gold lights. No one entering there would have suspected that this family hid a secret. The children had been born on U.S. soil. Their language was English, their culture the same as that of the other kids in the neighborhood. They sang the anthem every morning at school, played video games, dreamed of colleges and vacations in Florida. At home, they never heard a word of Russian. Their parents were careful to erase any trace of another past. No books, no photographs, no keepsakes. Only ordinary routines and innocent conversations. Richard and Tracy, Andrei and Elena, had promised that their children's lives would be authentic, even if theirs were not. They taught them to behave like everyone else, to fit in, not to stand out. And the children grew up believing their world was as stable as any other family's. At dinner, they talked about homework, movies, sports. The secret was relegated to the basement, where encrypted transmissions glowed at night. The contrast was constant. By day, the parents attended school meetings. By night, they transmitted messages to Moscow. The couple knew they lived on a precarious balance. The more normal their home, the safer their disguise. Yet the lie began to mix with their feelings. What they pretended, they loved. What they hid, they protected. One autumn afternoon, while the older son did his homework at the dining table, he looked up at his father and asked, with no intention of making him uncomfortable, "Dad, have you ever been to Russia?" Andrei took an instant to answer. He held his gaze, smiled calmly, and said, "No, son, never." The boy went back to writing without suspecting anything. From the kitchen, Elena held her breath. That simple sentence was a denial of the past, but also an affirmation of the love they felt for their children. Lying was no longer an operational act. It had become a way to protect them. Over the years, the little Murphys became teenagers who talked about American politics in universities, who argued about rock bands, who voted in local elections. They were American in every gesture and every word. If anyone ever asked about their roots, they answered naturally, "Canadian, nothing more." At night, when the house went dark, Richard and Tracy sat silently by the window. They watched their children sleeping and felt the purest contradiction. They had brought into the world two lives that could never truly understand who their parents were. The lie was no longer a tool of espionage. It had become part of love. At the beginning of the 2000s, the world had changed. The Cold War was already an old story. A line in textbooks in both the United States and Russia pretended to have left the paranoia of the past behind. But beneath that diplomatic surface, the old networks had never entirely disappeared. They slept, They waited. And in Moscow, one man was about to wake them. Colonel Alexander Putayev, former supervisor of Directorate S and architect of the illegals program, had aged along with the system. Years of service had given him a comfortable life, privileges, and a post at the Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR. But they had also left him disenchanted. The new Russia no longer resembled the country to which he had sworn loyalty. In 2000, Putayev began secretly collaborating with the CIA, handing over names, methods, and locations of the agents he himself had trained decades earlier. Among them, the Murphys. His betrayal was silent. No official report recorded it, no alarm went off. A few discreet meetings in Vienna, Geneva, Berlin were enough. He handed over encrypted files, communication, protocols, operational keys. Each document was a piece of the puzzle, and on the other side of the Atlantic, the FBI began assembling the full picture. In the halls of Quantico, a small group of counterintelligence analysts had spent years watching signals that did not fit. Numeric code messages transmitted by radio, inexplicable money transfers, people who seemed to lead lives too discreet to be real. Everything was suspicious and at the same time too normal. There was no sufficient evidence, only patterns. The investigation was given a code name: Operation Ghost Stories. The objective: to discover whether the old ghosts of the KGB were still alive. FBI agents worked with methodical patience. They were not seeking an active network, but residual traces. Transmissions repeated every week. Bank movements triangulated among Europe, Canada, and the United States. Apparently fortuitous meetings in public parks or cafes where the same table was always chosen. For years, agents watched without intervening. The Murphys and other suspects were too careful. They did not use phones, did not write anything incriminating, did not meet with Russian diplomats. They were exemplary citizens. But the absence of mistakes was, in itself, an anomaly. In an internal report, an analyst wrote, "Their life is perfect, too perfect." In 2005, the CIA provided a piece of information that changed everything. Putayev had confirmed that several agents remained active, living under false identities in key cities: New York, Boston, Arlington, Seattle. The FBI intensified surveillance. Tales multiplied. Unmarked cars parked in front of their houses, microphones hid in walls. Conversations were recorded and analyzed word by word. For nearly a decade, investigators did not make a single rash move. Ghost Stories became an operation in endurance, waiting for the spies themselves to make a mistake. And sooner or later, they would. Meanwhile, the Murphys carried on with their lives. Jobs, kids in college, taxes paid, family vacations. They never imagined that, behind neighborhood mailboxes and streetlights, cameras were trained on their door. That on the roofs of vans parked near their house, a hidden antenna listened to every transmission. The world they thought they knew went on. But in the shadows, someone had already decided their fate. 2 decades after crossing the border, the perfect spies were about to discover that the ghosts of the past always return. Boston, 2009. A white van without logos has been parked for weeks in front of a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Inside, 2 FBI agents watch, through portable screens, the interior of an ordinary house. A warmly lit kitchen, a couple preparing dinner, a pair of teenagers arguing over the remote. At first glance, nothing distinguishes the Murphys from the other neighbors. The operation has been underway for months. Agents have installed hidden microphones behind baseboards, tiny cameras in window frames, and devices intercepting all radio communications in the area. In the house's garage, a thermal sensor records every movement, every opening. But the results are disappointing. Trivial conversations, shopping lists, work calls, not a single sentence suggesting espionage. The team leader reviews the reports with frustration. "Are you sure it's them?" he asks. The analyst beside him nods. "Too perfect. Nobody is that normal." Surveillance continues. Day after day, agents watch the family leave in the morning, greet the neighbors, attend school games. At night, they watch them cook, laugh, turn off the lights at the same hour. There are no secret meetings or contacts with diplomats, no sign they communicate with the outside. If they are spies, they are the most boring spies in the world. But patience is a virtue in counterintelligence. The feds know that KGB illegals operate with meticulous routines and that errors occur only when confidence makes them drowsy. One winter night, shortly after midnight, one of the receivers in the van picks up a weak, irregular signal on shortwave frequency. At first, it seems like atmospheric interference, but the pattern repeats. It is not noise, it is numerical sequences. The operator adjusts the frequency and the sound becomes clearer. 6, 8, 9, 1, 0. Pause. A female voice, mechanical, monotone. The agents look at each other without speaking. They recognize the format, a numerically encoded transmission, typical of Soviet intelligence services. The signal is coming from inside the Murphys' house. The team does not interrupt the recording. They wait. The transmission lasts exactly 7 minutes, then cuts off. The agents save the record and, hours later, deliver it to the FBI counterintelligence headquarters in Washington. Analysis confirms the suspicion. The message traveled from Boston to a relay satellite and from there directly to Moscow. Reports pile up. The recordings, photos, money movements, behavior patterns, everything fits. The Murphys are not Canadian nor financial consultants, nor just any parents. They are illegal agents of the SVR, the modern version of the KGB. In FBI offices, analysts replay the recording. The digital voice recites the numbers with the calm of a clock. One of them murmurs, "There it is, 20 years of work, and in the end, a routine mistake." The game was over. From that moment, the case enters its final phase. Simultaneous arrests are organized in several cities across the country. Agents review schedules, exit routes, family profiles. No one must escape. No one must suspect. Meanwhile, in their house in Boston, the Murphys continue with their lives. They talk about vacations, universities, a future that will not arrive. They do not know that every word, every breath, every sound in that house is being heard. Outside in the white van, an agent notes the exact time in his notebook. It is 23:47. The message has been sent, and with it, their entire world. June 27, 2010. At 6 in the morning, a fine drizzle covers the northeastern United States. In Boston, New York, Virginia, and Seattle, dozens of FBI agents prepare in silence inside unmarked vehicles. Watches synchronized, earpieces live, commands clear. Simultaneous execution, no leaks, no margin for error. After nearly 10 years of surveillance, Operation Ghost Stories comes to an end. On Maple Drive, the neighborhood sleeps. The sun has not yet risen. Inside the Murphys' house, the smell of freshly brewed coffee floats in the kitchen. Richard scans the newspaper, Tracy makes breakfast. Their children are still sleeping. Outside, 2 vehicles pull up at the edge of the lawn. Men in blue jackets get out. On one of them, 3 white letters, FBI. The knocks on the door ring out like gunshots. FBI, open the door! In a matter of seconds, the facade of normality collapses. Richard opens with forced calm, and the agent leading the operation speaks the words that seal 2 decades of secrecy. Richard Murphy, Tracy Foley. In the name of the United States, you are under arrest for federal espionage. The scene is repeated at the same time in other cities. In New York, a couple detained in front of their building. In Virginia, a man intercepted in his car. In Seattle, a woman handcuffed while walking her dog. 11 people in total, 11 ghosts of the Soviet past who had lived among Americans for years. Neighbors step out of their houses, confused, watching the lineup of vehicles and agents. A woman asks, "Russian spies? Here?" Another man, incredulous, murmurs, "But she organized the school raffles." News cameras capture the images. Handcuffs, bulletproof vests, the house roped off with yellow tape. Photos of the Murphys, smiling family at a picnic, a child's birthday, a beach vacation, fill headlines around the world. Russian spy ring dismantled in the United States. The Murphys' children are quietly taken aside. State officials move them to a temporary custody center while government lawyers assess their situation. They are U.S. citizens, born there, but their last name now belongs to no one. In Moscow, the SVR denies all involvement. Kremlin spokespeople declare it a political provocation, a maneuver to damage relations between the two countries. But the evidence is indisputable. False passports, encrypted transmissions, bank deposits, microfilm, code names. The illegals exist, and the world has just seen them. In Washington, President Barack Obama's administration reacts with caution. The discovery occurs at a delicate moment. Ties with Russia are in a phase of diplomatic rapprochement. The White House avoids a triumphal tone. Privately, national security advisors discuss the possibility of an exchange. Days later, the conversation moves to the highest levels. In Moscow, Dmitry Medvedev receives a ciphered message from Washington, a proposal to resolve the incident without prolonged scandal. The idea is simple, almost symbolic, a prisoner swap in the style of old times. On July 9, 2010, barely 2 weeks after the arrests, a plane takes off from Vienna's airport. On board are the 11 Russian spies, among them the Murphys, bound for their native country. On the same tarmac, another plane waits. It carries 4 U.S. agents imprisoned in Russia. The exchange takes place on the runway, without speeches, without close cameras, only the sound of engines in the background. In less than an hour, it is all over. For the Murphys, 20 years of American life dissolve into a false passport and a deportation order. There are no farewells, no explanations. Behind them, they leave an empty house, 2 confused children, and a neighborhood that will never understand what really happened. The FBI closes the case. In its final reports, one sentence is underlined. The illegals were not killers nor saboteurs. They were observers, and they observed everything. The plane landed in Moscow under a fine gray rain. It was July of 2010, and the runway at Domodedovo Airport gleamed like a metallic blade. The engines shut down, the doors opened, and 11 people descended in silence. There was no press, no public, no applause. Only a group of SVR officials waiting under black umbrellas. The agents were returning home, but none of them fully recognized it. Russia was no longer the homeland they had left. The country had changed its flag, its system, its political language. The only thing that remained intact was the machinery of secrecy. Andrei Bezrukov and Elena Vavilova descended together without looking at each other, with the serenity of those who no longer expect surprises. For the first time in more than 20 years, they walked with their true names. The mission had ended. The masks had fallen. In the SVR building, a colonel greeted them with a formal handshake. "Welcome home," he said without emotion. They were assigned new apartments, new credentials, a monthly stipend, and obligatory silence. Officially, they were heroes who had done their duty. Unofficially, they were uncomfortable memories of a war no one admitted to still fighting. In the following weeks, the Russian media presented their story with a mix of pride and melancholy. "Our sleeping agents return home," headlined Izvestia. Blurry photos appeared, carefully edited interviews, ambiguous statements. In all of them, Andrei and Elena spoke with restraint, without drama. "We did what we had to do," he said. "We served in silence," she added. But behind that discipline lingered the void. Their American life had ended without farewells. The children, born and raised in the United States, had been left in neutral territory, citizens of a country that no longer fully recognized them, children of parents who had never been who they said they were. The Russian government tried to offer them passports, but the bureaucracy treated them as foreigners. Between two worlds, they grew up without a defined homeland. Andrei and Elena tried to rebuild a routine. She wrote a novelized memoir about the life of illegals. He began giving lectures at Russian universities on strategic intelligence and cultural camouflage. They were respected figures, but their story belonged to another century. In the auditoriums, students listened to them as one observes fossils of a heroic past. At night in their Moscow apartment, the two spoke little. Sometimes they watched American movies, not out of nostalgia, but out of habit. The snowy streets of the Massachusetts they had left blended in their minds with Russian boulevards. Their lives, once divided between truth and lie, had become a single thing, a territory without a border. One day, while making tea, Elena remarked, "There we pretended to be other people. Here we pretend we were not." Andrei nodded. He knew that although their true names had returned, something had been lost forever. There was no longer a line between duty and lie, between the life lived and the one invented. What had made them invisible had also erased them. And in that paradox, as so often in the history of the Cold War, resided their only truth. The Murphys' house still stands in a quiet Boston neighborhood. The grass has grown with no one to cut it, the windows remain shut, and the mailbox, rusted, keeps the echo of a surname that belongs to no one. Inside, the air smells of dust and time suspended. On the dining table are uncollected plates, a cup with dry coffee grounds, a school notebook left open halfway through an unfinished assignment. In the living room, the family portraits still hang. A smiling couple, 2 children in Halloween costumes, a dog in the yard. The echo of the FBI's footsteps is gone. Only silence remains. In that empty house, the entire late Cold War story is concentrated. The collision between faith and routine, between duty and life. 2 people who infiltrated an enemy country to serve an idea and ended up living within it until they believed it themselves. 2 children who grew up under one flag, unaware that their very existence was part of a mission. 2 entire lives dedicated to a cause that no longer exists. 2 children who grew up believing they were American until they discovered their parents worked for another country. And 2 systems, 2 powers, 2 ideologies that confused love with loyalty. In Moscow, the true names are spoken again. In Boston, neighbors still remember the friendly couple who hosted barbecues and attended school meetings. No one fully understands what was real and what was feigned. Perhaps they do not either. The sky did not fall, the missiles did not fly. But in that suburban house, the Cold War found its most human face, that of a family that sincerely loved 2 opposing homelands. Because in the end, the war did not end with the collapse of a wall or with diplomatic treaties. It ended there, in an empty dining room, where truth and lie had become indistinguishable. And in that silence, more than in speeches or missiles, the question that no one can answer still resonates. How many times, in the name of duty, do we forget what it means to live?